What the San Francisco 49ers just did is probably going to make you happy. In this video, we're talking about the latest news out of Santa Clara, and the hint is it's good news. Plus, later in the video, we're going to be talking about several moves the 49ers just made, so stick around for that. Hit subscribe if you're looking for daily 49ers content. Matt Barrows posted the official pre-draft visit list. Most positions were pretty close to be expected, except for one particular area: offensive tackle prospects. That's where we need to kind of start our conversation today. Plus, we got moves the 49ers just made today later in the video, so stick around for all of that. But in discussing the importance this 49ers front office places on top 30 visits, Matt Barrows said this: the best way to tell which draft prospects the San Francisco 49ers are interested in, or at least which positions they're targeting, is to find out who paid them a visit. Last year, for example, Dominic Purdy, Jacob Cowing, and Tatum Bethune visited. So did Evan Anderson, the 49ers' top target among undrafted rookies in 2024. In 2023, they hosted 5 of their 9 picks: Jair Brown, Cam Latu, Darrell Luter Jr., Braden Willis, and Jalen Graham, and also conducted a workout with kicker Jake Moody. The year before that, 5 of 9 draft picks also visited, including the first 4 players they selected. So do the 49ers love to draft players based on these 30 visits? Or maybe a rephrase of that is, do the 49ers love to bring in players they actually intend to draft? And that, I think the answer you could say with confidence is a yes. Now, there are, of course, non-examples of this, but there are plenty of solid examples. So we're just going to focus on that today. And I want to talk about offensive tackles, because of all the lists and all the players that I've looked at and all of the top 30 trackers that are out there, Matt Barrows posted this today, which seems to be as official as it gets as far as we're concerned, unless the 49ers themselves said it. These are the offensive tackles the 49ers brought in. You're going to notice a couple of the names on this list were not on any of those trackers. So you've got Kelvin Banks Jr., you've got Josh Simmons, you have Josh Connerly, you have Anthony Belton. So you've got these other guys in here that the 49ers are bringing in. That's 5 offensive tackles alone. Now, like I said earlier, most of the players the 49ers had brought in on 30 visits, as we saw from a bunch of different trackers and social media and all the stories that got out, most of them are basically the guys that we've already talked about. However, when you get to the offensive tackle area, there's some hush-hush stuff that was going on around the players they were able to bring in. Now that we know, that's 5 offensive tackles, and I believe Barrows, and we'll find out later, I think I definitely looked at it. I think it was like 3 interior offensive linemen. So there are a lot of guys the 49ers are bringing in, and what this tells you is something I think 49ers fans wanted to hear, which is the 49ers are most definitely targeting the tackle position this offseason, and they're hoping in the draft to get a top offensive tackle, and they're willing to look beyond the first round to get them, okay? Now, this is not the best draft for tackles, but they're willing to take a shot at a tackle position, which is great news. It's music to my ears, because for all of you out there who comment on my videos every time I talk about a defensive line prospect, yeah, but don't forget about the other side of the trenches. Yeah, but don't forget about the offensive line. Yeah, but don't forget about our problems on the offensive line to protect the quarterback. Every time we talk about Brock Purdy, somebody comments down below, at least one person saying, yeah, but we got to get a line to protect him. And all of that is 100% fair. So hopefully all of you who comment that kind of stuff are feeling good about this. This is the 49ers going out there and doing significantly more than I talked about yesterday in yesterday's video. Way more. It was actually closer to 30% of the targets the people they brought in. Close to 30% of those, actually maybe a little bit slightly higher than 30%, are offensive linemen. So there you have it. That now puts us way over. Well, I can't say way over because there was one less edge. I'm not going to do math on screen right now. That's not really worth our time. The point is the 49ers are definitely targeting the tackle position. They're thinking about Trent Williams' replacement. I don't think they're thinking that Colton Williams is going to take another step back, having had a step forward this last year. I think they're assuming that Colton McKivitz is going to play as well as he did last year, and I hope he does, because you know what? He righted a lot of wrongs last year. He didn't right all of them, okay? I will not forget about the Super Bowl until the 49ers win one. You're not going to forget about what happened in the Super Bowl. But, and he wasn't the only reason the 49ers lost the Super Bowl by a long shot. But the 49ers definitely had something better in him in 2024 and will at least celebrate that small victory because of all the seasons to get it wrong with all the injuries on the offensive line with the rookie Dominic Puni sitting right next to him, which maybe that's part of the reason he did so well or so much better. All of that said, for him to go out there and have a better, improved season is a good sign against a really tough, challenging group of opponents last season. Now, just as an FYI, okay, pick number 11 is still very much a question mark, but what the 49ers do at the macro level is very much looking pretty solid in terms of assessing the trenches and really going for players, addressing the trenches is what I meant to say, and going for defensive linemen, offensive linemen, right? Every move so far would suggest the 49ers are thinking long and hard about their day 2 prospects as well, by the way. This from Johnny Dell's Football Academy. What's most interesting about this list is that I think only a small handful are legitimately considered to be picked at 11. Most of these guys are rounds 2 through 4, which is absolutely right. We're talking about day 2 players, day 2 prospects. These are guys that the 49ers seem to be putting a lot of face-to-face interaction with. And part of that, by the way, it makes a lot of sense. If you think if you say, if Abdul Carter is still available at 11, it's a no-brainer, right? You think about the blue chip prospects, right? The 49ers don't need to meet him unless they're worried about character concerns, which if they were, that character stuff kind of typically takes people out of that blue chip level, right? So if they were concerned about character concerns, then it wouldn't be the blue chip. So the blue chippers, whatever. I'm digressing here too fast. So I'm going to move on to defensive tackles. You'll recognize most of the names on this list. You'll notice that I think 2 of the names we've been talking about in the past were not on this list, but we're not going to get into the weeds on that today. Then you've got 5 defensive ends. I think this is exactly the same as what we talked about yesterday. We're going to flip through a lot of this because you guys don't need to hear me go over the same content again. On the interior offensive line, Marcus Bowe. And then you've got Caleb Rogers and Jonah Monheim. So I don't think we talked about all 3 of those ones, if I remember correctly. Linebacker, we missed out on Kane Medrano. That's actually that's my fault, actually. I think that information came out after I'd planned the video, but before the video went live, and I just hadn't seen it yet. And then at cornerback, you're still looking at 3 corners, same thing there, and then 3 tight ends, same thing there. By the way, Jalen Conyers out there with during his top 30 visit, hanging out with Fred Warner. How about that? That's kind of cool. Oh, and then Jordan Watkins out of Ole Miss was another one that was like a last minute top 30 prospect that came out toward the end of day yesterday. So you might have missed that. I wanted to make sure you had it. But let's talk about some latest moves from the 49ers, because the moves the 49ers are making, obviously, in bringing players in and getting face-to-face with them, that's all important too. That's massive. We've been talking about it. But there are actually a couple other moves that the 49ers have made as well as recently as today. They announced today that Austin Pleasants and Jake Tonjes, both UDFAs that have been sticking around the league for a little while, signed their restricted free agent contracts today. So Pleasants came in when our line was super depleted around Christmas time. He played in the last few games of the season. He's a depth guy. That's just the reality. He's like a practice squad depth guy. That based on how I expect the draft to go, he's probably not going to make it out of training camp for the 49ers. Maybe he gets a shot. Maybe he steps it up, and maybe he does do really well. But from what we saw so far, I don't think that he is going to be a massive prospect going forward. I don't think he's filling in the holes. I think this offensive line is in better shape. Let me rephrase. This offensive line will be in better shape heading into this upcoming season than it was in last season. I'll put it that way. Based on injuries, everything in consideration there. But I always love the 49ers, especially this time of year when you're thinking about, guys, we got that 90 man in front of us. Like, this is the time of year to be bringing in players, and just about any move is a decent move, assuming that you don't overpay for them, right? Tonjes, he's been around for a little while, but still hasn't even caught a pass in the National Football League, so that tells you kind of the status he has right now. The 49ers met with multiple tight ends for 30 visits, as we talked about earlier, and we've talked about in many different videos. and they have a history of drafting tight ends. So we'll have to wait and see what kind of shot Tonjes is actually able to get in training camp. If he can stick around, I'm sure he'll make the 90. Obviously, they wouldn't have offered him a restricted contract if it weren't the case. So he'll make the 90, and we'll have to wait and see if he ends up being a football player. He could be a fringe, like a practice squad kind of guy. He could step up a little bit, but I'm assuming the 49ers are drafting a decent tight end, and there are going to be opportunities to get them. They will be there. I have concerns about him. Like Harold Fannin is like a baby child. He's a man child. Like he's not even a fully physical athlete yet. Like he hasn't even finished developing. So, there are concerns for sure about some of these guys, but they also, like the yak attack from Harold Fannin and giving him an opportunity, and coaches are always going to believe they can get the most out of these players. So I understand why you're going to be looking at these guys and bringing them in. And I think he's a really exciting prospect and has high potential, while you still have George Kittle, ideally for a couple more years. And you don't need him to be something crazy special in the passing game quite yet. So there's an opportunity there. I would get into George Kittle and injuries and other opportunities there, but I'm not going to go there today. The 49ers have also offered Brock Purdy a contract extension officially. So there's an official update, inside information, inside scoop that the 49ers have put another offer over to Brock Purdy's camp. And it's not one that Purdy's team is willing to take, per Matt Mayoko. Additionally, it doesn't sound like anything is close. However, all parties involved seem to be confident that it'll get done eventually. This is Matt Mayoko speaking here. As of now, it's just kind of this back and forth. Okay, so there's two ways to take this. You can take this as bad news, and you could say, here's history repeating itself over and over and over again, and I'm sick of the 49ers repeating this history. I'm tired of it, and I just want to see the 49ers sign somebody early. That's one way to take it. The other way to take it is you could look at this and say, here's the 49ers doing a lot more back and forth earlier in the offseason than when we've had reported previously, and that's the truth. That's the truth. If you look at Brandon Aiyuk's situation, the back and forth stuff was always spaced out publicly. What we would hear, at least, was always spaced out by at least several weeks. 3 to 5 weeks we're talking. And not only was it spaced out, we're talking about middle of the summer. We're talking late in the year when you hear like the next time something had gone back or forth. It just took a really, really, really long time for things to get done for Brandon Aiyuk. And it's been the same in the past with Nick Bosa, with other guys, right? So the point is, yes, it is not exciting to hear that it's going back and forth and things aren't close and yada, 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 because it feels just like, man, every year. This is just what we get every year. I'm hearing the same thing I've always heard. But on the other side, I am really taking notice to the fact that everything, and I've said this from the very beginning, everything has been accelerated from the very beginning of the offseason. The way that it was being talked about, how the parties were meeting, how the parties were talking, the information we were getting from John Lynch about the guys talking before the season was even over, and the decision that Jed York talked about at the owners meeting a couple weeks ago, like about them having made that decision mid-season that they were going to do it, and like all of that stuff. And then you add on top of that the stuff that was coming out of Brock Purdy's camp right after the season was over. It just felt like there was a lot more going on at the get-go. Then you add on top of that these two parties have had, information leaking to the media a lot earlier than we were seeing it in previous seasons, and a lot tighter frequency. So that tells me, in my opinion, that this deal is going to get done significantly earlier than we've seen in the past. I don't know if it gets done before first OTAs in April, but it gets done earlier. That's how I feel. That's what I'm getting right now. Obviously, these things are like fluid situations. There's still lots of back and forths, and who knows what's going to happen and how people are going to react. That's obviously like, it's not a done deal, because otherwise we'd be talking about it like it's a done deal, but it does feel better to me than previously. Ask me again in a couple weeks, and maybe I'll feel differently. Right now, I feel optimistic about it. But you know what I feel optimistic about even more than that right now? I feel optimistic about the 2025 NFL Draft, just a week away. Can you believe it? I am so pumped. I cannot wait to watch the draft, to dissect every single little move while I'm watching the draft, and I'll share with you just the most important things. I'm not going to do 100-minute videos or anything like that, but I will do for you just my take and share a little bit of the interesting storylines that I'm seeing around how the 49ers approach the draft, what they do and what they don't do, who they pick up and who they don't pick up, all that good stuff. It's going to be absolutely electric. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out on all the action. Hit comment down below, hit the like button if you enjoy the videos. Comment down below if you want to share your take on whether or not you feel like this is good or bad, that the 49ers have brought in so many offensive tackle prospects. Do you want to see them bringing in a guy? How early do you want them to draft? All that good stuff. I love reading your comments. Appreciate your guys' takes all the time, as much as I have ability to do so, of course. And I hope you guys have a fantastic Thursday evening. It's almost Friday. Congratulations. You made it to the weekend.